It's easy to talk about discipline after a loss. Pain makes reflection simple. But what about after a win? What happens when success becomes the new danger? Most traders fall not because they fail, but because they forget what kept them grounded when they were failing. Winning feels safe, and safety invites carelessness. This isn't a story about failure. It's about something more deceptive, the quiet confidence that grows after a few green days. The kind that feels like strength but slowly turns into blindness. If you've ever caught yourself thinking, I can't lose right now, this story is for you. It's a reflection on the invisible cliff that follows every victory and the simple brake that keeps you from driving over it. It's strange how confidence feels. It doesn't shout at first. It arrives quietly disguised as calm. After a few green days, it whispers, "You've got this." And for a while, I believe it. It starts simply enough a week where everything clicks. The charts make sense, the setups unfold exactly as planned, and my patience feels infinite. I wait for confirmation, I respect my stops, I follow every rule like it's second nature. It's the kind of rhythm that traders dream of, that clean, effortless flow where price seems to move in harmony with your breathing. Those are the days that build you and also the ones that can quietly break you. Because when everything starts working, something dangerous begins to grow inside you. It's not arrogance, not yet. It's comfort. It's the soft belief that maybe the worst is behind you, that maybe you've finally figured it out. The truth is, those thoughts feel so innocent, you don't even notice them forming. One morning, I woke up lighter than usual. No hesitation, no anxiety. I poured my coffee, sat down, and opened the charts with an unusual sense of control. The kind of confidence that makes you feel untouchable. And that's exactly when I started to drift. I didn't see it happening. How could overconfidence never arrives as a threat? It arrives as clarity. You feel sharper, faster, more certain than ever. Your vision narrows. You call it focus. You stop double-checking setups. You call it intuition. You take trades earlier than planned. You call it experience. And before you know it, the discipline that carried you here quietly steps aside. The first few trades that day were perfect. Clean entries, tight risk, quick wins. Each one added a little more fuel to the belief that I had entered a new phase, a phase where losses were minor interruptions, not real possibilities. I remember leaning back in my chair, smiling to myself, thinking, maybe I'm finally past the beginner stage. But that thought, that exact moment of satisfaction was the first crack in the foundation. Because the moment you start believing you've outgrown the rules, the market starts writing your next lesson. Later that day, a setup appeared not perfect, but close enough. Normally, I would have waited for a candle to confirm, but this time, I didn't. I entered early, telling myself I can read the structure. I don't need proof anymore. It worked. The trade went my way. And that strangely was the worst thing that could have happened. Because success without discipline is the perfect reinforcement for bad behavior. It tells your brain that caution is unnecessary. It whispers, see, you were right to trust yourself. And you believe it. You start to think of your edge not as a system, but as yourself. You stop trading the chart and start trading your identity. The next day, I increased my size. Not by much, just enough to feel like I was scaling up responsibly. That's how overconfidence hides under logic. You don't think you're gambling. You think you're evolving. The profits come again smooth and predictable. Every win strengthens the illusion that you're in control of more than you actually are. By the fourth green day, I caught myself saying it out loud, I can't lose right now. It wasn't arrogance, it was conviction. And conviction is dangerous when it stops being questioned. I noticed small things changing. I was no longer reviewing my plan before trading. I stopped journaling. I ignored the 3 green day rule I'd set to force myself to rest. I told myself rest was for people who hadn't yet found rhythm. I had rhythm, or so I thought. That's how overconfidence feels: smooth, justified, almost logical. It doesn't feel like risk. It feels like maturity. You think you're evolving past discipline, but what you're really doing is drifting away from it. Then came the day that reset everything. It started the same way: quiet, confident, clean. The setup looked identical to the ones I'd been winning with, but this time, something small was off. A different market tone, a hesitation in volume, something subtle that my calmer self would have noticed. But I was too sure of myself to care. The entry was instant. The loss was faster. I blinked and the candle moved through my stop. It didn't bother me. I told myself just a fluke. I re-entered. It failed again. My hands were steady, but my breath shortened. I convinced myself the market was just shaking out weak hands. So I added, "It's funny how confidence flips into chaos without changing expression." My face was calm. My thoughts were not. Each red candle felt like an insult. Each loss became proof that I needed to assert control. And that's when I realized I was no longer trading the market. I was trading to defend my belief that I couldn't be wrong. One trade turned into three. Three turned into five. Five turned into a blur. By the time I stopped, the profit from 4 green days had vanished in a single red session. It didn't even feel like losing money. It felt like losing gravity. I remember closing the platform and staring at my reflection in the black monitor. The same person who had felt calm, wise, evolved just 24 hours ago, now looked uncertain, small, fragile. That's the cruel beauty of trading. It shows you how quickly illusion becomes humility. The pain wasn't the financial loss. It was the realization that I had betrayed my own rules, that I had confused flow with control, confidence with clarity, winning with wisdom. Every win had quietly built the staircase that led to that fall. That night, I didn't blame the market. I couldn't. The market hadn't changed, I had. And that was the hardest truth to face. When I lay in bed, the charts still flickered behind my eyes. Not the numbers, the moments. The impulse to enter too early. The justification for increasing size, the comfort that grew with each win, and the silence that followed the fall. It hit me that night that humility isn't born in losing. It's born in remembering what winning made you forget. The market doesn't punish greed, it punishes forgetfulness. And I had forgotten what kept me grounded: respect for risk and awareness of ego. The next morning I didn't trade. I didn't even open the platform. I just sat at my desk and watched the light move across the wall. I wrote in my journal, "Confidence is a tool. Overconfidence is a trap. The only difference between them is awareness." That sentence stayed with me. It became the quiet break I needed, the invisible boundary between presence and pride. I realized something simple. Discipline isn't tested when you're losing. It's tested when you're winning. Because success makes you comfortable, and comfort makes you forget the structure that brought you there. I began to notice the pattern in myself: how every string of green days carried a hidden curve upward, a small invisible drift toward risk. And I understood that the goal wasn't to stop winning. It was to slow down enough to remain aware while winning. Winning doesn't test your skill. It tests your relationship with power. And power, unexamined, always turns against you. I started creating new rituals breaks, small reminders that pulled me back to awareness. After 3 green days, no matter how strong the setups looked, I would take a half day off. I called it a humility pause, not because I was weak, but because I needed space to cool the dopamine, to remember that I'm not in control, I'm in collaboration with the market. It was strange at first. Walking away when everything seemed to be working felt unnatural. But over time, it became sacred. Each pause reminded me that consistency is built from restraint, not momentum. The calm that comes from not trading is sometimes more valuable than any winning trade. The longer I observed, the clearer it became: the high. After green days isn't confidence, it's intoxication. And like any intoxication, it narrows your world. It tricks you into thinking you're seeing everything, when in reality you're seeing less and less of what matters. Overconfidence is just a quieter form of fear, fear of losing the feeling of control, fear of returning to uncertainty, fear of realizing that your wins don't make you invincible. That's why we push harder when we're winning, not to gain more, but to avoid facing the fact that we could lose again. It's a strange paradox. The market humbles you when you're wrong, but only maturity humbles you when you're right. To stay grounded after winning is the real art. Anyone can be disciplined when things are bad, but staying disciplined when everything feels perfect, that's mastery. The more I studied myself, the more I realized that the real danger isn't greed, it's comfort. Greed is loud, easy to recognize. Comfort is subtle. It wraps itself in logic and whispers, "You've earned this." It convinces you that relaxing your standards is a reward, not a risk. After a few weeks of consistent profits, I noticed the same rhythm returning. That soft confidence, that easy flow. But now I knew what it really was. It wasn't mastery, it was gravity pulling me upward toward arrogance. And the higher I floated, the more I knew I needed to plant my feet. So I began to build rituals around humility, simple ones. After every 3 winning days, I would deliberately trade smaller, not larger. I would reread my old journal entries from when I was struggling, the ones written at 2 a.m. filled with fear, self-doubt, and self-reflection. I would remind myself what the market taught me when it was cruel. Because the lessons from red days are the anchors that keep you steady on green ones. When I caught myself thinking I can't lose, I replaced it with I can still learn. It seems like such a small difference, but that shift saved me more than any indicator ever could. It's funny how the ego hides behind success. When you're losing, it screams, but when you're winning, it smiles. It tells you you're evolving, but really, it's making you forget the rules that kept you alive in the first place. One morning after another solid week, I looked at my reflection and said quietly, "Don't let the winds make you deaf." Because every win carries a lesson too. It just whispers instead of shouting. You have to listen closely to hear it. That's the paradox of trading. Pain teaches loudly, success teaches softly. And most traders only listen when it hurts. The few who listen when it feels good, they're the ones who last. The break I needed wasn't fear, it was awareness. Not hesitation, but humility. The reminder that I'm not smarter than the market. I'm a participant in it. And the moment I stop respecting it, it will remind me who's in charge. I used to think of discipline as chains, something that restricted me. Now I see it as scaffolding, something that holds me together when success makes me forget structure. Without it, confidence collapses under its own weight. Every green streak now feels different. Not a celebration, but a signal to slow down, to breathe, to remember that good performance doesn't mean perfect judgment. It just means alignment for now. And alignment is fragile. It needs rest. It needs gratitude. It needs balance. So I started taking what I call break days. Days where I close the charts early. Days where I go outside, do nothing, and remind myself that my identity isn't tied to the numbers on the screen. Those days used to feel like lost time. Now they feel like the maintenance that keeps me sane. There's a quiet kind of strength that comes from walking away while you're ahead. Not because you're afraid to lose, but because you respect how quickly confidence can turn into carelessness. That respect is the break. The awareness that says slow down before you skid. I've seen it happen too many times. Traders who win big then lose bigger, not because they forgot how to trade, but because they stopped feeling the weight of risk. They start believing they're above randomness. That's the moment the market humbles you, not cruelly, just honestly. It brings you back to balance. When I look back now, I realize how invisible overconfidence can be. It doesn't look like recklessness. It looks like comfort, confidence, ease. And that's what makes it so dangerous. It feels exactly like progress until it isn't. I remember one morning standing by my window after a green week. The city outside was waking up. I felt calm, grounded. And then a thought passed through me. If I'm calm, then I'm ready to stop early. I closed my laptop before the session even started. That small act felt like victory, not over the market, but over my own momentum. It was proof that I had learned to use the brake before the crash. Overconfidence doesn't vanish. It evolves. It becomes quieter as you grow. It hides in pride in success, in the illusion that you've arrived. But no trader ever truly arrives. We're all students of uncertainty, no matter how long we've been here. Now, I measure success differently. It's not about the number of green days in a row. It's about how I behave after them, how consistent my emotions stay between the wins and the losses, how little I let confidence distort humility. Some days I still catch the old impulse, the little spark that says, "Double size, you're hot today." I smile when I hear it. It's familiar now, like an old friend I don't take seriously anymore. I breathe, I pause, and I let it fade, because that's what maturity feels like, not silence, but awareness. The market has a way of testing you, even in silence. It waits patiently watching if you'll trip over your own success. It rewards those who learn to balance acceleration with reflection. Every chart, every trade, every moment of calm, it's all feedback. And the feedback after green days is the most subtle of all. The truth is, consistency isn't built in the red days. It's built in the spaces between the green ones, and how you handle comfort, how you respect risk when it no longer scares you. Because risk doesn't disappear when you're winning. It just becomes invisible. And the invisible is what ruins most traders. So now when I end a strong day, I don't chase another one. I close the platform and whisper to myself, "Don't break the rhythm by forcing more music." I let the silence teach me. Because silence after a win is the sound of awareness returning. Confidence is necessary to act, but humility is necessary to last. One moves you forward, the other keeps you alive. The balance between them, that's trading psychology in its purest form. There's no final mastery, no permanent calm. Only this: the daily choice to stay present, to question the highs as much as the lows, to remember that control without awareness is just another illusion. And so after every green day, I touch the brake, gently, not out of fear, but out of respect. Because I've learned that discipline isn't what you use to survive losing, it's what you use to survive winning. And that's the brake I needed, the one I still use, the one that keeps me from mistaking success for invincibility. So if you ever find yourself on a streak feeling calm, confident, unstoppable, pause. Take a breath, touch the brake. That small act might be the thing that saves you. The market rewards awareness, not pride. And the quiet trader who remembers that, who slows down when everyone else speeds up, will always outlast the one who doesn't. That's what I've learned. Not from losses, but from wins that almost became losses. Because overconfidence doesn't announce itself. It whispers softly until you learn to listen. Overconfidence doesn't look dangerous while it's happening. It feels like flow, clarity, mastery. But the truth is, it's the space where discipline fades quietly, not with a crash, but with comfort. Every trader learns to survive losing. Few learn to survive winning, because success unchecked turns into speed. And every streak, every moment of ease demands a break. The break isn't fear, it's awareness. It's the pause that says, I'm still human. I still need rules. That pause is what separates confidence from arrogance, momentum from maturity, trading from gambling. So the next time you end a green day and feel unstoppable, stop anyway. Take the breath, touch the brake, because consistency isn't born from motion, it's born from stillness. This is mind over markets, where trading isn't about predicting price, IPO, but about understanding the mind that moves with it. Until next time, trade calm, trade aware, trade human.